They say if you betray someone who trusted you completely, the universe finds a way to balance the scales. Elara learned that lesson the hard way. She was supposed to be a servant, a handmaiden to Princess Astrid, the beautiful girl being sent to marry a prince in a neighboring kingdom. Elara's job was simple: help the princess arrive safely, then fade into the background like good servants do. But Elara was tired of fading, tired of being invisible, tired of watching privileged girls get everything while she got nothing. So when they stopped at a river 3 days into the journey, when the princess bent down to drink and no one was watching, Elara made a choice. She pushed, the princess went under, and Elara took her place. It was almost too easy. She wore the princess's clothes, rode her horse, practiced her mannerisms. By the time they reached the kingdom, everyone believed Elara was Princess Astrid. The real Astrid, soaking wet, traumatized, trying to explain what happened, was dismissed as a crazy servant girl and sent to work with the geese. Elara married the prince, lived in luxury, slept in silk sheets while the real princess slept in the goose barn, covered in feathers and filth. For 3 months, Elara thought she'd gotten away with it, thought she'd finally won. Then the horse started talking. Not the princess's horse. That one had died mysteriously the week after Elara's wedding. This was something else, something that appeared in the goose barn one night, wearing the skin of a horse but moving wrong, speaking in a voice that sounded like grinding stones. "I am Falada," it said, "and I remember what you did." Elara tried to run. The doors wouldn't open. The windows had bars that hadn't been there before. And Falada smiled with too many teeth and said the words that made Elara's blood turn to ice. The kingdom knows the old laws, the laws about stolen identities, the laws about what happens to pretenders who take what isn't theirs. The horse's eyes glowed in the darkness. And the punishment, Elara, is very specific, very old, very painful. Some fairy tales are about happily ever after. This one is about justice. And justice in the old kingdoms didn't believe in mercy. It believed in balance. And Elara was about to learn exactly what that meant. Subscribe and comment which fairy tale deserves the darkest retelling next. Elara had been a handmaiden to Princess Astrid for 3 years, and she'd spent every single day of those 3 years hating her. Not because Astrid was cruel, she wasn't. Not because she was demanding or ungrateful, she was neither. Elara hated her because Astrid had everything Elara wanted and didn't even know how lucky she was. They were the same age, 22. Both had brown hair, similar builds, the same education because Elara had sat in on all of Astrid's lessons. The only difference was that Astrid had been born in a palace, and Elara had been born in a village so small it didn't even have a name. And that one difference meant everything. Astrid got silk dresses, Elara got servant's wool. Astrid got marriage proposals from princes, Elara got proposals from stable boys. Astrid got to matter, Elara got to watch. When the king announced that Astrid would marry Prince Aldrich of the Northern Kingdom, a political alliance that would prevent a war, Astrid cried. "I don't want to leave home," she said to Elara, while Elara helped her pack. "I don't want to marry someone I've never met." Elara had smiled sympathetically while rage burned in her chest. Poor princess having to marry a prince and live in luxury. How terrible for her. The journey would take 2 weeks. Just Astrid, Elara, and a small escort of guards who'd turn back at the border. The plan was simple: deliver the princess, finalize the marriage, and Elara would return home to continue her invisible existence. But on the 3rd day, they stopped at a river to water the horses. The guards were upstream filling canteens. Astrid knelt by the water, washing dust from her face, and Elara stood behind her, watching the princess's reflection ripple in the current. This was the moment. Right now, nobody watching. Just Elara and Astrid and the choice that would change everything. "Elara?" Astrid looked up, water dripping from her face. "Are you all right? You look..." Elara pushed. Not hard, just enough. Astrid's eyes went wide with surprise, her hands reaching out, her mouth opening to scream. Then she hit the water and went under. The current was stronger than it looked. Astrid surfaced once, gasping, trying to swim, but the river pulled her downstream. Elara watched her struggle, counting seconds in her head. 1, 2, 3. How long until someone drowned? How long until this problem solved itself? But Astrid was a strong swimmer. She made it to the far bank, coughing up water, her dress soaked and clinging to her body. She looked back at Elara with an expression that wasn't anger or fear, just confusion. Like she couldn't understand what had just happened. "Help!" Astrid called out weakly. "Elara, help me!" The guards heard her, started running downstream. Elara acted fast, tore her own dress at the shoulder, scratched her face, started screaming. "She fell! The princess fell! I tried to grab her, but the current, oh God, someone help her!" By the time the guards reached them, Astrid was hypothermic and shaking, barely able to speak. And Elara had already made the switch. She'd taken Astrid's cloak, her jewelry, her signet ring, had put on the princess's traveling dress that she'd grabbed from the horse while the guards were distracted. When the guards asked what happened, Elara, wearing Astrid's clothes, speaking with Astrid's accent, said the servant girl had startled the princess near the water. An accident. Terrible, but an accident. And Astrid, shivering and traumatized and unable to form coherent words, couldn't contradict her. It took 3 days for Astrid to recover enough to speak clearly. By then they were at the border, the guards had turned back, and it was just Elara and Astrid continuing on to the northern kingdom. "You pushed me," Astrid said on the 4th night, sitting by the campfire, wrapped in a servant's cloak now. "I remember. You pushed me into the river." "The fall must have confused you," Elara said, wearing the princess's silk nightgown, sleeping in the princess's bedroll. "You slipped. I tried to help. That's what I told the guards, and that's what happened. I know what I felt." Astrid's voice was stronger now. "You're trying to steal my identity, but it won't work. Prince Aldrich will know. The court will know. You can't just..." "Can't I?" Elara leaned forward. "Look at us. We're the same height, same coloring, same age. I've been studying you for 3 years. I know how you talk, how you walk, every mannerism and habit. And you?" She smiled. "You're covered in river mud, wearing servant's clothes, stammering about being pushed. Which one of us looks like a princess right now?" Astrid stared at her. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of watching you waste opportunities I'd kill for. You were crying about marrying a prince. Do you have any idea what my life looks like? What my options are?" Elara's voice went cold. "You get everything and you're not even grateful. So I'm taking it. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. I'll tell them. The moment we arrive, I'll tell everyone the truth." "You'll try," Elara agreed. "And they'll think you're insane. A jealous servant trying to steal a princess's identity. It's pathetic, really. Desperate." Astrid lunged at her. It was clumsy, emotional, and Elara was ready for it. She dodged, let Astrid fall, watched her cry into the dirt. "This is what servants do," Elara said quietly. "They fall, they fail, they fade away. Get used to it, Your Highness." They arrived at the Northern Kingdom 5 days later. Prince Aldrich met them at the gates with the entire court. He was handsome, strong jaw, kind eyes, the kind of man who'd make a good husband. He took Elara's hand and kissed it. "Princess Astrid," he said, "welcome to your new home." "Thank you, my prince," Elara said with a perfect curtsy. "The journey was long, but I'm honored to be here." Behind her, the real Astrid tried to speak. "Wait, there's been a... she's not..." "Your servant seems distressed," Prince Aldrich said, frowning at Astrid. "Is she unwell?" "The journey was difficult for her," Elara said smoothly. "She had a fall into a river. I'm afraid it's left her confused. Perhaps she should rest." "Of course." Aldrich gestured to a servant. "Take her to the staff quarters. Get her cleaned up." "No!" Astrid grabbed Aldrich's arm. "Listen to me. I'm Princess Astrid. She's the servant. She pushed me into the river and took my identity. You have to believe me." The court went silent. Everyone stared at this mud-covered, wild-eyed girl in servant's clothes making impossible claims. Aldrich gently removed her hand from his arm. "I think you need rest more than I realized. Perhaps a physician as well." "Please," Astrid whispered. "Please, just look at me. Really look at me." But Aldrich was already looking at Elara, smiling at his beautiful bride-to-be. And Astrid was dragged away by servants while she screamed the truth that nobody would believe. The wedding was 3 days later. Elara wore white silk and a crown of flowers. She said the vows perfectly, kissed Prince Aldrich in front of the entire kingdom. And when she walked past the servants' quarters that night, she saw Astrid through a window, scrubbing floors with hands that had never held a brush before. Elara had won, and it felt incredible. For 3 months, Elara lived as a princess. She ate at banquets, wore jewelry worth more than entire villages, slept in a bed bigger than the house she'd grown up in. Aldrich was kind to her, the court accepted her, and the real Astrid had been assigned to work as a goose girl, the lowest position in the kingdom, tending birds in a barn far from the palace. Elara went to watch her sometimes, saw Astrid covered in feathers and mud, herding geese with a stick, living the life Elara used to live. And it was satisfying. Proof that Elara had been right to take what she deserved. Then Falada died. Falada was Astrid's horse, a white mare that had carried the real princess her entire life. The horse had stayed in the royal stables after the wedding, and Elara had avoided it. Animals made her nervous, the way they looked at her sometimes like they knew things. The stable master found Falada dead one morning. No explanation. The horse had been healthy the night before, and by dawn she was lying in her stall, eyes open, stiff and cold. "Strange," the stable master said. "I've never seen an animal die like this. No injuries, no signs of illness, just stopped." They buried the horse that afternoon. But 3 days later, Elara was walking past the goose barn and saw something that made her stop cold. Falada's head was mounted above the barn gate, not stuffed like a trophy. Just the head, skin, and muscle preserved somehow, eyes still open and glassy, mane still white and perfect. It hung from an iron hook, staring down at everyone who passed beneath. Elara grabbed a passing servant. "What is that doing there?" "It's tradition, Your Grace," the servant said. "When a loyal horse dies, we mount its head above the place it served. Shows respect." "It's disturbing. Take it down." "I'm sorry, Your Grace, but it's tradition. The old king himself ordered it when he heard the princess's horse had died, as a tribute to Her Highness." Elara wanted to argue, but she couldn't without seeming heartless. So she walked away, trying to ignore the way the horse's glass eyes seemed to follow her. That night, she heard voices from the goose barn. She was in the palace, in bed with Aldrich asleep beside her, when she heard it. Faint but distinct. Talking. Singing. She got up, put on a robe, and walked through the palace grounds toward the barn. The moon was full, bright enough to see clearly. And there, standing beneath Falada's mounted head, was Astrid. The real princess was singing, some lullaby in a language Elara didn't recognize. And as Elara watched from the shadows, the horse's head moved. Not much. Just the eyes. They shifted, focused on Astrid, and blinked. Elara's blood went cold. "Falada," Astrid whispered to the head. "Do you remember me?" The horse's jaw moved, stretched, and it spoke in a voice like grinding stones. "I remember, Princess. I remember everything." Elara ran, back to the palace, back to her room, back to the safety of silk sheets and locked doors. Her heart was hammering. She'd imagined it, had to have imagined it. Horses didn't talk. Dead horses especially didn't talk. But the next night, she heard it again. And the night after that. By the end of the week, Elara couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Falada's head moving, heard that grinding voice saying, "I remember everything." She went to Aldrich. "The horse's head above the goose barn, it needs to come down, it's upsetting the geese." "The geese seem fine," Aldrich said. "Why does it bother you so much?" "It's morbid, disturbing. I don't like looking at it." Then don't look at it, Aldrich said gently. It's tradition, my love. I can't break tradition for aesthetics. So the head stayed, and every night Astrid went to talk to it, and every night Elara watched from the shadows as the dead horse spoke back. She's a pretender, Falada said one night, loud enough that Elara heard it from 20 feet away. She stole your identity, pushed you into the river, took your crown. I know, Astrid said. But nobody believes me. They will, the horse said. The old laws still exist, the old punishments. When the truth comes out, and it will come out, the kingdom will know what to do with pretenders. What do they do? Astrid asked. The horse's dead eyes gleamed in the moonlight. They balance the scales. They restore what was stolen. And they make examples of those who took what wasn't theirs. Elara stumbled backward, stepping on a branch that cracked loud in the silence. Astrid and the horse both turned to look at her. She's listening, Falada said. Good, Astrid said. Let her hear what's coming. Elara ran back to the palace, locked herself in her chambers, refused to leave for 2 days. When she finally emerged, the servants were talking about the Goose girl, about how she spoke to the dead horse's head every night, about how the horse spoke back, about how some of them had started listening, had started hearing the truth in Falada's grinding voice. Ridiculous, Elara said to anyone who mentioned it. The girl is clearly insane, hallucinating. The stress of her position has broken her mind. But she knew. Deep in her bones, she knew. The truth was spreading like rot. And when it finally reached Prince Aldrich, when he stood beneath that horse's head and heard what it had to say, when he looked at Elara and really saw her for the first time, the old laws would come for her. And those laws, Falada had promised, didn't believe in mercy. They believed in balance, in justice, in making sure pretenders paid for what they took. And the payment, Elara was about to learn, would be collected in screams. It took another month before Prince Aldrich finally listened. Elara watched it happen from her chamber window. Saw Aldrich walking through the grounds at dusk. Saw him pause near the goose barn. Saw him stop beneath Falada's mounted head. Saw him stand there for a long time, just looking up at the dead horse's eyes. Then she saw the horse's jaw move. Saw Aldrich stumble backward. Saw him steady himself and step forward again, closer this time. Listening, Falada spoke for 20 minutes. Elara couldn't hear the words from her window, but she saw Aldrich's expression change. Saw confusion become horror. Saw horror become rage. When he looked up at the palace, looked directly at Elara's window, she knew her time was up. Aldrich came for her that night. Not alone. He brought the king, the court advisor, and 6 guards. They found Elara in her chambers, wearing the silk nightgown that had belonged to the real princess, sitting in a chair that should never have been hers. Tell me it's not true, Aldrich said. His voice was quiet, controlled, but his hands were shaking. Tell me you didn't steal her identity. Tell me you didn't push Princess Astrid into a river and take her place. Elara opened her mouth to deny it, to call Falada a liar, to insist the Goose girl was insane, to maintain the fiction she'd been living for 4 months. But Aldrich's eyes stopped her. He already knew. The horse had told him everything, and somehow, impossibly, he believed a dead horse over his own wife. It was supposed to be me, Elara said quietly. I was just as good as her, just as smart, just as worthy. The only difference was that she was born in a palace and I wasn't. That's not fair, that's not justice. So you created your own justice, the king said. He was an old man, gray-haired and stern, and he looked at Elara like she was something rotting. By stealing, by lying, by condemning an innocent girl to servitude. She had everything. Elara's voice cracked. She was crying about having to marry a prince. Do you know what my options were? Marry a farmer or die in poverty. She didn't deserve what she had. And you didn't deserve to take it, Aldrich said. Guards, remove her. They dragged Elara from the chambers. She fought, screamed, begged. But they stripped her of the silk nightgown, dressed her in rough wool, and threw her in the dungeons while the court decided her punishment. The real Princess Astrid was brought before the king that same night. She stood in the throne room covered in goose feathers and mud, and the king knelt before her. "Forgive me, your highness," he said. "We should have listened, we should have seen." Astrid didn't cry, didn't rage. She just nodded, accepted clean clothes, and asked to be alone. But Elara, locked in a cell beneath the palace, heard the discussions, heard the court debating her fate, heard the word that made her blood turn to ice. Precedent. There was precedent for this. Old laws, ancient laws, laws from when the kingdom still practiced blood justice and public punishment. Laws about identity theft, about pretenders who stole names and crowns and lives. And the punishment was specific. The court advisor read it aloud from a book so old the pages crumbled when he turned them. "Those who steal the skin of royalty shall have their own skin stripped in return. Those who take a crown through deception shall wear a crown of their own making. Balance must be restored. Justice must be seen." Elara screamed when they came for her 3 days later. They dragged her to the courtyard where the entire kingdom had gathered to watch. She begged for mercy, for a trial, for anything other than what was coming. But the old laws didn't care about mercy. They cared about balance. They stripped her down and tied her to a post, brought out tools that looked medieval, blades designed for precision, restraints designed to keep someone conscious through unbearable pain. "The old laws require that you experience what you tried to make the princess experience," the executioner said. His voice was almost kind, almost apologetic. "You tried to drown her. You tried to erase her. You tried to steal her skin, her name, her life. So now we restore balance." What happened next took hours. Elara screamed herself hoarse, begged until her voice gave out, prayed to gods she'd never believed in. But the old laws were patient, thorough. They required complete restoration. By the time the sun set, Elara understood what the old kingdoms meant by justice. Not quick, not clean, not merciful, just balanced. They say she lived for 3 days after, that they kept her alive using techniques from the old times, techniques that had been practiced when kingdoms still believed in making examples of criminals, that they made her wear a crown woven from her own hair, soaked in her own blood while she hung in the courtyard for everyone to see, that she begged for death, that death was denied, that she finally understood the difference between what you deserve and what you take. Princess Astrid never watched. She stayed in her chambers, bathed and fed and tended by servants who apologized with every gesture. She was given back her clothes, her jewelry, her identity. Prince Aldrich asked for her forgiveness, offered to dissolve the marriage if she wished. But Astrid surprised everyone. She chose to stay, chose to marry Aldrich properly with her real name and her real identity, chose to become the queen she was always meant to be. And when she was crowned 3 months later, when she sat on the throne and looked out at her kingdom, she saw Elara's remains still hanging in the courtyard. A reminder, a warning. Some people asked if the body should be removed, if enough justice had been served. Astrid's answer was simple. Leave her. Let everyone who passes through this kingdom see what happens to those who steal what isn't theirs. Let them understand that some debts are paid in blood. The crown sat heavy on Astrid's head, heavier than she'd expected, but she wore it well, ruled well, became known as a fair and just queen. But she never forgot what Elara did to her, never forgot the river, the cold water, the feeling of drowning while someone she'd trusted watched. And she never stopped visiting the goose barn at night, never stopped talking to Falada's mounted head, never stopped listening to the dead horse's grinding voice as it repeated the same words over and over. "I remember, princess. I remember everything." Because the thing about stolen identities, stolen lives, stolen crowns, they leave marks, scars that never heal, memories that never fade. Elara learned that lesson too late, learned it in blood and screaming and the old law's brutal justice. But Astrid learned it just in time, learned that some things are worth fighting for, that silence isn't always weakness, that the universe really does find a way to balance the scales, even if it takes months, even if it requires dead horses that speak truth, even if justice looks like cruelty to those who've never understood the difference. The goose barn still stands in the northern kingdom. Falada's head still hangs above the gate. And sometimes, late at night, travelers say they can hear it speaking, telling the story of a servant who tried to steal a crown, telling the story of a princess who got her justice, telling the story of the old laws and how they balance the scales in blood, and warning anyone who listens. Some things can't be stolen without a price. Some debts come due eventually, and some kingdoms still remember the old ways, the ways that don't believe in mercy. Only balance. Always balance, that's Elara's story. That's what happens when you steal someone's identity, when you think you can take what belongs to someone else and get away with it. The old laws are patient, the old justice is thorough, and the old kingdoms never forget. If this dark retelling made you rethink fairy tales, made you see the justice hiding in the shadows of these old stories, hit that subscribe button. We've got more twisted fairy tales where the villains get what they deserve, the heroes fight for what's theirs, and justice is brutal but fair. Drop a comment and tell us, did Elara deserve what she got? Was the punishment too harsh or exactly right? Or better yet, tell us which fairy tale you want us to darken next. What childhood story deserves the brutal truth treatment? Because here at Sinister Stories, we know the truth about fairy tales. They weren't written to be sweet. They were written to teach lessons, to show consequences, to remind people that actions have prices and debts eventually come due. Elara wanted everything the princess had. She got it for 4 months. Then she paid for it for 3 days. That's the exchange rate the old laws offer. That's balance. Subscribe, comment, and whatever you do, if you're ever tempted to steal someone's identity, to take what isn't yours, to push someone into a river and claim their crown, remember Falada. Remember the mounted head that speaks truth. Remember the old laws that still exist in the shadows, waiting for pretenders to make their move. Remember that the universe keeps books, and eventually the bill comes due. In blood, in screaming, in perfect, terrible balance.